Most yoga studio owners get scheduling at their yoga studio all wrong, and it's actually costing them energy, it's costing them money, and it's costing them stress, and we've got to fix it. I'm Josh from the Yogapreneur Collective. In this video, we're talking about how to optimize your yoga schedule during a time where right now you're probably reevaluating what your schedule looks like, and it's a good time to make some of those moves. If you want, click the link down below to find our free schedule worksheet that will walk you through how to optimize your schedule, but let's jump right in. So the first thing about your schedule that I think you have to realize is your schedule is how you manipulate in your business, getting everyone together in the same place at the same time so that your business has a profit margin that actually makes sense. In other words, your schedule is efficiency. It is not just creating the smorgasbord of opportunity for people to take a yoga class with you. Now, of course, we want to increase opportunities. And yes, there is an optimal point of number of classes that you need to have. But the major realization to take away from this is if you run too many classes, you are actually devaluing your product because one, the energy of the class is poor, two, your margins are bad, and then three, people actually think that you're supposed to be offering that many classes. It's not the same as just a box gym where you can just go into open floor time. You are running scheduled classes, so you have to optimize your scheduled number of classes around this. The second major principle is to realize what we're trying to create. Now, the data is clear as day. There is no question on this. When it comes to members succeeding, the first thing that they have to do is frequency. They have to come in a certain number of times per week, and then they have to do that consistently over time. That's how they will reach their goals. So that is our primary objective. Coincidentally, if you want to retain people, which is one of the most important drivers for the success of your business, is your long-term client retention, their practice frequency and how long they stay on their membership are the two major things that we would look at and promote, and your schedule is a function of this. Now, as a little side note, I do want to point out that getting someone to come in and do a large number of classes in a short amount of time, those people tend to fall off. But the people who come in 2 to 3 times a week with consistency, they tend to still be there 12 months later, 14 months later, and they tend to be retained. The reason this metric matters is that habitual practice needs to take precedent in most yoga studios over high frequency practice. So frequency is the function, but we're not looking for extreme high frequency right now. What we're looking for is habitual practice over the long term. So the number one mistake that we see in scheduling is trying to appease too many individual people instead of looking at the larger group of people in our local market and making a schedule based on that. Now, the way that you do that is you have to look at what are people actually doing in your market. When do they go to work? When are they done? When do they drop the kids off at school? So on and so forth, and building your schedule around that rather than just purely the requests of a couple of individuals who say, hey, it'd be really great if we had a Thursday at 1:30 p.m. class. You put it on the schedule and nobody shows up because it doesn't culturally work, and it's not a way for you to build a habitual class. The number two mistake around building habitual classes is having a schedule that is too all over the place. You have a 4 p.m. and then a 4:15 and then a 4:45, and every day of the week it's different, and there's different styles on different days of the week, and it makes it impossible for me as a practitioner in your studio to start to schedule my life around it. So having some level of consistency across the board with your schedule is really powerful for building up that habitual practice that we're really trying to do here as well. And then the final thing is, how do we know when we should axe a class versus keep a class? And how do we even look at sort of the numbers and the efficiency to know, like, is this a good class or not? And although we've calculated it, I don't know, a whole bunch of different times over a decade of coaching and working with hundreds of studios all over the world, the best way that we found in terms of practical application to calculate your cost per class is to look at the total number of dollars that it costs you to run your business divided by the total number of classes in the same time frame, because you only really make money when a class is running. even if I'm buying retail or a drink or something else, I'm doing it because I have a membership to your studio and because I came in to take a class. So because that's what makes us our money, it's fair for us to equate our expenses to that as well. Once you know your cost per class, then you can back calculate, well, how many people do I actually need in a class before it becomes profitable? And that is the metric that you need to figure out, is this a good class or not? Should I do something to promote this class more? Maybe it's on a chopping block, or at least I need to question this class because it's underperforming on average versus what we really need it to for the business to function appropriately, which is your primary concern as the business owner. Now, when you optimize your schedule, what we find happens, you have more people practicing at a higher frequency. Now, when we say higher frequency, it's the consideration that if you take a member and improve their practice frequency by 1 visit per week. So we're talking someone who's doing once a week, now they do 2. Someone who's doing 2, now they do 3. That's it. Not going from 1 to 5. When you increase their practice frequency by 1 time per week, their retention rate of them, am I gonna be there the next month or not? Does that happen or not? Goes up by 60%. Is what our metrics are showing. So I come in and you convince me, hey, come back one more time this week. Next month, I'm gonna be there. 60% more likely that's gonna happen. The number 2 thing is when you optimize your schedule, you get a better margin situation. It's very, very common that we encounter a yoga studio that is running a high number of classes. And even though all of the classes have a good enough number of people for them to be making a profit, none of them are a high performer. They're all just making a little margin per class. So the consideration here is that it's not uncommon for an expense per class to be running somewhere in the $150, $200, $300 per class expense rate, which means if you were to cancel a class at $200 per class times 52 weeks in a year, that's a cost of $10,400 that it costs you to actually run that class. So even if you were to cut just that 1 class per week, you have a class Saturday at 3 and it's not performing very well, but it's costing you $200 to run it, you axe that class and then you save $10,400. That's a good savings. All of the people who were coming to that Saturday class in the afternoon now come to the morning class. So now the margin on that class gets better, or they come Sunday morning instead, where they didn't normally come on Sundays, and now the margin gets better. So the big thing here is that you improve the actual margins for the individual classes by consolidating people into a smaller number of classes that are taking place. All right, download the free worksheet down below there so you can start working on optimizing your schedule, and hit me up on social media here. What is it that stresses you out with scheduling your class? What is the biggest difficulty that you have when it comes to making your yoga schedule? Hit me up and I'll make another video for you to follow up. When you're ready to do some coaching or you want some help to specifically dive into your studio schedule, you can schedule a free strategy session with me by going to joshbiro.com. Talk to you on the other side soon. All right, peace.